and I was back home in California, and my sons were, in school now, and I was always on movie locations, taking them everywhere. I had taken them all over the world with me on movie, but I couldn't take them out of school. I mean, it was time that I kind of stayed home for a while because they were all three in school, and I got this offer to play Shirley Partridge in a thing called The Partridge Family, and I read it, and I said to myself, "Where is it? Is it?"
Okay.
And I read the script of The Partridge Family, and I loved it. I really loved it. I just loved the idea. I loved the fact that she was the first working mother on television, you know. The family idea and the music idea was such a great idea for me. I mean, I thought, wow, there's nothing like this on television. This is really a very different thing. So I said, you know what? I want to do this. I want to do this. And of course, everybody said, don't do television once again. This is not a good idea. Don't do television. And I said, no, I have a feeling the show is going to be a success. I just have it in my bones that it's going to be a hit show. And if it is, I can stay home and raise my kids. It's a half-hour show. I love the role. I love the idea. And it'll be fun for me to do, and I can be home with my kids. And so that's why I made the decision to do it, basically. And then I find out that they're thinking of David Cassidy, my stepson, for the role of Keith Partridge. And they came to me, the producer, Bob Claver, who we talked about earlier, whom I loved. And he said, Shirley, how do you feel about your stepson? And I said, why? I said, he's great. Why? And he said, well, we're thinking about him for Keith Partridge, but we want to make sure that you have a good relationship, that it's not going to be. I said, no problem whatsoever. I think it's a great idea. I knew that David could sing. And David had already been in a Broadway show that didn't last very long and had done some television. So I said, no, he'd be perfect. So they tested and they hired him. And I remember I came on the set because I was testing with the other little children that were testing to play the other roles. And I would test with each one of them, to make sure it worked out. And David was on the set, and he said, what are you doing here? And I said, what are you doing here? I said, I'm your mama in this. And he said, you don't mean it. I said, uh-huh. So he said, oh, my gosh, that's great. Nobody told him. So I told him the first time. And that's how that came to be. And as I predicted, the show did become a hit. I mean, the pilot was wonderful. We got along very well, and I remember, whereas Danny Bonaducci was so wonderful, and the relationship between him and Dave Madden was made in heaven. I mean, the comedy, that's where the comedy was. And it was just one of those things that really clicked right from the beginning. Danny really had respect for Dave, and Dave sort of acted like a father to him on the set. He'd play ball with him and everything, and he loved that. And Danny was a natural comic. I mean, he was at that age. He was one of the best child actors I'd ever seen, and was just wonderful in it. And we had beautiful Susan Day, who had been a model, but was really just, superb for the role. It was so well cast, in other words. I mean, it couldn't have been better. And I remember after we did the pilot, everybody kind of started saying, well, now when are they going to write a show about me? Is the next show going to be about me? Is the next show going to be about me? And I remember taking them all aside and saying, listen, guys, if we're going to have a hit show, we've only done a pilot. It's got to be that we work together. I said, there'll be stories around each one of us, if the show's a success. But I said, we can't be thinking that way. I said, because if you do, it won't be a family. And that's what it has to be. It has to be a family. And we have to work together for whatever the story is. And they did. They really did.